One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse with the Poetic Diva, is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between poetry and mental and emotional wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization and the financial and technical support of the Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, Gold Nook Productions, and our Chattanooga local NPR station, WUTC 88.1. So whether you are a poetry enthusiast or simply someone seeking inspiration and understanding, join us as we unravel the threads of creativity and introspection, one rhyme at a time. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse poetry podcast, where poetry meets mental wellness right here in the heart of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, the Poetic Diva, and I am thrilled to embark on this poetic healing journey with you. Now, as in every episode, we are being visited by a poet and a mental health professional. We are being visited by poet N'nako Kande and mental health professional Dr. Valerie Radu. Today, we are talking about nature and the outdoors and its impact on mental wellness. Lebanese-American poet, writer, and artist Khalil Gibran, known for his philosophical works, is quoted as saying, "Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky." Let's meet our first guest, N'nako Kande. N'nako Kande, also known as N'nako Good Health Queen, is an award-winning author, multidisciplinary artist, and artisan. She is the founder of N'nako, a holistic beauty and cultural lifestyle brand, niece of the illustrious Guinean artist N'nako Kande. The French-speaking creative born in Côte d'Ivoire proudly shares her cultural heritage and love for all things natural in her works. She is an alumni of Purdue University. She has been a multi-nominee for the Black Excellence of Chattanooga Awards for 3 consecutive years. Her book, The Art of Rooting, won the International Impact Book Award in 2024. Her signature poem, The Self-Love Blessing, is available as an EP on all streaming platforms and as a trilingual book. N'nako has published over 12 books, including What About Peace, a cultural and humanitarian coloring and activity book. Her work is illustrated with her artwork and photography and has a journal collection called The N'nako Book. She became a member of the Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization during the COVID pandemic in 2020 and has poetry published in the organization's annual anthologies from 2021 through 2025. She describes Rhyme and Chat as a special, safe place where even a shy immigrant American can find her voice and have a family away from home. Let's welcome N'nako Kande to One Rhyme at a Time. So we're going to listen in as she shares her poem, The Forester's Daughter, on One Rhyme at a Time.
Thank you. The Forester's Daughter. This poem was written. I wrote this poem approaching what would have been my father's 80th birthday. You can take me so far away from the birthplace of my father, keep me away from the ground trodden by my ancestors. But let me find a forest, a creek, or a river, and there I'll find myself. I'll find myself une place, un refuge, and a shelter, because my spirit was born in the land of an African forester. Entouré d'arbres, surrounded by trees, my lungs breathe the air like an ethereal traveler. Roots wrap up like vines around my heart make nature my soul's keeper. A heart in love with nature's enchanting beauty will keep me loyal forever. Making sense of maps traced in the sky by hawks, owls, ibu, crows, and corbeaux, spiritual messengers. Dans la forêt, in the forest, I retrace the footsteps of my father. We are sharing some trails that the sole of his feet has never hiked with me. Yet, trails our soul, tied by our heritage, are hiking intimately. Trails that I am convinced his spirit visits with me tenderly. He lives in me after all, so where I go and hike, there he goes with me. I always remember to go slow, sometimes slower, activating my sense of wonder, observing footsteps on the sand from the forest dwellers, tree branch leaning on each other after the storm like brave survivors, animals and plants of every size. We share so much in common. You might as well call us nature's belongers. Forest bathers, forest lover, water drinker, soul quench, soul fade, forest feeder, forest where and only where my roots grow more freely, forest where and only where my roots grow stronger. I am forester's daughter, la fille des forestiers. Like lichen thriving with pure air and water, where else will my spirit meet with my father? Where else can we share imaginative conversations and laughter? Where else will we marvel at the healing force of earth and mother? I am a forester's daughter, la fille d'un forestier. I am a forester's daughter, constantly reminded that nature is the remarkable healer, constantly reminded that death is unreal and love is always the answer, constantly reminded that life is the energy of power. This here is home, I say of the forest, not just of a bird like the woodpecker. This here is home, I say of the river, not just for the blue heron I keep watching by the water, but for my soul and my spirit, because I am the forester's daughter, la fille du forestier. The end.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
How beautiful. So
Appreciate
you
that.
mentioned, okay, so you mentioned your father and his upcoming 80th birthday. So tell us a bit about how your father's memory, his impact, helped to shape this poem.
Oh, I don't even know where to start. So when my father played a big role in my love of nature, because when I have memories of time in the forest, of memory of time on the ocean, or just seeing trees, I remember he would collect trees, he would collect seeds he would take seeds from Côte d'Ivoire, go to a lab, have the seeds get ready, and have all the seeds that he would ship to Guinea. And then we take those seeds to Guinea and help people plant those seeds. And then when he passed away, I started receiving stories of people who say that my father had planted so many seeds in their region, that my father had given them seed to plant trees. And through those trees, they were able to get their kids in school, their kids in college. And how some of them became so wealthy just out of those trees and those seeds that he gave for free to people. Just like his thing was like, plant a seed, get those trees, and some of them were like palm oil. Like if you plant palm oil, you can use the oil for so many things. You can make soap with it, you can make oil with it. So those people who harvest the fruits of the seed and make product out of it, and out of those products they will go be able to make money out of it to take care of their families. So when he passed away, I had all those stories from what those seeds that I remember seeing when I was a child, what the seeds represent. So it's one thing every time I go in the forest, it's the only place where I feel like, okay, I'm in America, I'm so far away from home, but this is the one and only place that does really feel like home, because I'm like through the soil, through the trees, through nature. I'm like, okay, it's here, like as long as I have this, I got my family with me, and I have my roots with me.
Yeah,
So
you still have that connection.
I do have the connection.
And what an amazing legacy.
Thank you.
What
I
an
appreciate
amazing
that.
legacy, because he has impacted generation after generation with what he has taught and instilled in others and left to others. That's beautiful.
I appreciate that.
Beautiful. So the title of the poem, Forester's Daughter, tell us a bit about that title, and what does that title mean to you literally and even symbolically?
I think when I was young, I think I heard the song called The Coal Mine Daughter.
The
I don't
coal
remember.
miner's
The
daughter.
Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yes.
I was really young. I don't even know who sang it. I don't know what the movie. I don't remember details about it. But from whatever my memory is that no matter how poor that coal miner was, the daughter was so proud of saying, I'm the coal miner daughter, And then when I think about the forest, the thing is like my father was born in a forest that is considered a sacred forest region. So the region he was born is considered a sacred forest. And then when he left his place when he was 19, he walked all the way to Côte d'Ivoire, where I was born, and he had nothing. He was an immigrant there. So he had nothing, and he starts from scratch and became very successful in Côte d'Ivoire, and then took his success to his homeland. But when I say the forester's daughter, it's me recognizing that he was born in an area considered a sacred forest, and then he became an immigrant in Côte d'Ivoire, and he had to deal with a lot of tribal issues because, people are very proud of their tribe. So there were people who remind him, you are not from here because of your last name. You can go everywhere in Africa, the last name will identify you. So people be like, well, you are not from here. You're not from Côte d'Ivoire because that's what your last name is. Mm-hmm. So my thing is that as an immigrant in the States, I am not from the U.S., but just like my dad was was an immigrant, I always remember like, well, here we go again. I'm an immigrant in here. But despite the fact that we were both immigrants in this different way, I still feel like, okay, he held on so strong to his roots and to his culture and to his heritage. He was so proud and passed so much of that to me. And he passed in a way that was so subtle that it was not like lecturing, beating me with, you have to love the land, you have to love art. But he was a strong patron of the art. He had a strong cultural heritage. He was in love with nature. And he passed all those things to me so naturally. And then when I say, okay, I'm the forester's daughter, it's like, okay, here I am, a continent away, place I never thought I would live in, but I'm still his daughter because I still had that passion for nature. I had that passion for art. I have that passion for culture. And I'm like, I look at the roots in the tree, in the forest, and I'm like, I'm still connected to my roots no matter how far the distance is. Yeah. And I am proud of my roots now that I used to be. So I am the forester's daughter.
Definitely. And he was able to pass that on to you naturally because he lived it. He didn't just talk about it. It sounds like he lived that. So
he lived it so powerfully, like between growing up to see seeds, between knowing that he had lands full of plantation, between knowing all the stuff he was doing in his home country with the land. And he had so much going on. And then he was a major patron of art. I was surrounded by artists at a young age. I got to see stage performances. And that's how I fell in love with art. Because you would take me to some places and I would be like, how can we get backstage access? How can we get this? Not knowing that he helped those people succeed. And there's one day I saw this fabulous stage performance with drums and attires, and you're still a mixture of culture, a mixture of nature, the way people dress to stage the event and thing. So there was so many mixture of nature and art together in what I was saying. And he was so intertwined. And then I used to wonder why were those people, but I took them for granted. Now that looking back and learning all the history between civil rights, apartheid, and all the stuff, and now like I was so connected to all those people that I did not even know I was connected to them. So it's quite a legacy from nature mixed with art and culture, because Africa is there's no art without nature to some extent, between the drums, between the attires, between the sound and the music and the rhythm. There's so much that mimic nature too. So I think to me, the trees are kind of the same thing.
Definitely. So if your father could read and even hear you share this poem today, what are some of the things that you think that he would say?
I think he will say, like, at least I realize that it's important to never forget where you come from. So do not forget where you come from, to respect things, like there's an order to things. My father was very big on discipline, very big on order, very big on tradition. And then one thing I love of nature is that order for nature, if we're not involving climate change in the conversation, nature teach you like there's an order to doing things. Like there's here in the States, we had the 4 season. In Africa, we didn't have 4 season like that. I didn't have 4 season. But nature teach you like there's an order to things. And then another thing is like, one thing I love with the root system is that there's so many like roots are strong and we undervalue them sometimes. We don't think much about them. And then there's so much that happens with the roots. They play such an important role in nature. Like roots are so important. And then it got me to realize I'm so far from home, but then it takes like time in nature to realize my roots are so important. My legacy is so important, who I'm connected to. And no matter how far I try to get away from it, I have to realize that's what makes me strong. And that's what feeds my soul, just like the roots of the tree will be making the tree stronger, like feeding it.
It's very true. That is very true. So you do an amazing job of weaving French into your poetry. Share a little bit about that process, like how you know when to bring in the French and even the translation of going from French to English, English to French. How does that work? How do they work together?
It just depends. I think like I initially, most of the time I'll start with French poem and then go into the translation. For this one, I started with English, but then I kind of like put the French word in it. But one thing, like what I will do technically is that if I use a French word, the English I'll follow will be the exact word, but in English. So like earlier, I was saying, I did it backward. Earlier I said crows, and then I say corbeau. Corbeau is French for crows. So I say earlier in one of my lines, the crows and the corbeau, but corbeau is French. So I'll just kind of mix it. And sometimes when we speak French, people like me who have spent so much time back in here, when we speak French with people from back home, they have to get used to us like mixing words. So it's kind of like there's some word that don't even translate in English, in French, like the expression success story. A French person will not use the words, oh yeah, that was such a success story. So there's a lot of words now that people will use that English. They don't even speak English fluently, but they will use it. But a lot of time we have a conversation and you can get carried away. I had a panel recently and I said, oh yeah, you have to give him credit. But I was saying in French. But I use the word give credit. And the person was like, N'nako, can you explain what you're saying? Because we don't understand what it means to give him credit. Like, it didn't make sense translating it. So one thing I have to remember is that even when I use it in the poem, I'm like, okay, girl, you have to make it match. Yeah, even if people don't know it, you have to make it match. So, but it's pretty fun. And I love that I can do that because it forced me to still have a subtle way to stay connected to where I come from.
Right. So it's not always apples to apples. So there's a bit of thought that goes.
Yeah, you cannot, some expression, there's no perfect translation. You cannot, there's no way, it don't make sense. I used to make that mistake a lot. Some stuff you say in English, you cannot just translate it in French. It's like, that's expression. A lot of people will say, you heard people say, oh, fermez la bouche, fermez la bouche, fermez la bouche. It means shut up.
It means shut up.
But you don't say that in French.
I think that's the only thing that I remember from French
class.
It
don't even make sense. Like technically, intellectually, it don't make sense.
Right.
It's something that you would tell a child if he's eating with his mouth open. And you'd be like, ferme ta bouche.
Right.
Ferme
Close
ta
your mouth.
bouche. You know, but in French, you say tais-toi.
There's a rhythm and repetition throughout your poem. When you're going from forest to forester and daughter and things of that nature that has that sound, that similar sound. Was that intentional when you were writing?
It was intentional. It was like making this explanation, and I'm aware that when sound repeat, there's something that's soothing in repetition.
That's true.
Like it's ritualistic, but you know, traditions are ritualistic. We have a lot of rituals where I come from. So it's kind of a subtle way of like, okay, let me play with this repetition in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then nature has a way of repeating. There's a rhythm, there's some repetition in nature. And then there's also like in tradition, there's a lot of rituals that are repetitive,
Yes.
you know? So it's kind of a way to kind of like a subtle way of connected, like the, you know, repetition in rituals, repetition in nature with this system and that kind of thing.
And honoring it with repetition in your poetry.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a question that's come in from our studio audience, and they're wanting to know, in what ways were you able to see the effects of nature on your father?
Wow, the effect of nature on my father. Like the craziest story. I grew up with privilege, like material privilege, and my father decided to leave Abidjan, the capital where I was born, to go back to his hometown. And he's the kind of guy, he built his house pretty much in the forest, like near the forest, near his land. And my mom would sometimes make like, I don't understand, like somebody who had all those achievements, worked for the biggest bank in Africa, had all this luxury lifestyle. We just drop this and just go move to nature and just be comfortable like this. And then my little brother had an experience living with my dad for a year, like walking his farm, watching him just living their life. And when my brother started living in the States, he's like, man, I think I understand that. You don't have to worry about no credit score. You don't have to get up and, you know, be at work, deal with traffic to go to work in the morning. You don't have to worry about who's cooking, what you're going to eat. The American life is like, man, now I see that he wakes up whenever he wants. He just walks his land. People, everybody know him. He's just chilling. It's so cool. He had nothing to stress about. So talk about the effect of nature is like, hey, you know what? All that city life is cool, but you know, all that problem, all that noise, all that stress, just let me be. And I'm good with the sound of birds. And I found that I'm the same way. I'm good with the sound of birds. I rather hear the sound of birds, which we are blessed to have in Chattanooga. I rather hear the sound of birds and hear like bing 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 bing. I wish you have like you go to Paris, it's this. You go to Africa, it's like the first time I went back in many years, I woke up in the morning, I was like, what's that noise? What's that noise? And they're like, oh, it's just traffic outside. And I'm like, ooh. And then when I talk to people, when I'm in Chattanooga and talk to people, they're like, where are you? I can hear some birds. I'm like, yeah, I'm in Chattanooga. That's how it is in here, you know? So the effect of nature, I think that you're allowed to live like in his case, like a longer life. I mean, it passed before his 80s still, but it was to some people don't make it that long. So he was blessed to live a longer life, and he wasn't caught up with material things. And I think it's a blessing when you can create a life where you're not caught up with that.
It's true. So how does nature, being outdoors, impact you personally, your mental health, how you deal with stress and the stuff of life, and even your writing?
Okay, mental health. I say honestly, this is like my oxygen. I like just give me this, just put this. Let me just be. Let me just be. Like it's in the poem, near a creek in the forest. Just let me be there, and then we'll talk later on. I have dealt with a lot of traumatic things, and if it was not for my time of nature, or something, like there's a creek where I like to go. If it was not for the privilege and the luxury, which I believe is total luxury, to be able to sit in that creek and get to feel that living water, just cleansing your energy, soothing you as like a baby, the sound of nature, the rhythm. I had experience where I would sit in the creek and you have like dens of fly just come and sit on me. And it's magical. It's not even real. You're like, oh my God, it's like a scene from a movie, but it is. It's, I get to live that. But that's the most precious luxury that I have. And I know it's not given to everyone, but at the same time, it's so accessible that I'm like, wow, I wish people knew they can have that. And to me, it's just like such a privilege to have that connection with nature. And I know that if it was not for the grace to be able to go walk, take my shoes off, feel the grass. Like I did today, like the muddy grass. I was coming back from the hospital and I'm like, I just need to be around the trees. And just to like have my feet bed ground and to feel like I am grounding, I'm breathing, I'm touching the trees, I'm feeling this. And whatever anxiety I was dealing with for the week leading to today, medical stuff, I'm like, at least I got that. Like, this is really like my medicine. I feel like for me, nature is like, it's like having access to a well, and then the well just keep refilling and it never goes empty, because I've written so many books and that's where I get it from. Like, I will be like the book that won the awards in 2023. I wrote that book because I was dealing with a lot of traumatic things and I've injured my foot and I couldn't run anymore. And running was the way I process stress. So I couldn't run anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just drag myself to the forest every day and just sit there. And then I said, I'm doing nothing. I'm chilling. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to rest. So I dragged myself to the forest. By the time I spent 3 to 4 days doing the same thing, some of the stress I was dealing with, some of those worries, things are changing. Like I'm calmer. I have less anxiety. My sleep is better. I start having ideas that were like, oh, where does that come from? And then it's like, I kept having all these ideas, and then the idea for that book came like, hey, well, write a book about trees. And I literally was walking. I felt like the trees were talking to me, and I stopped and I looked around. I'm like, write a book about what? So I was literally talking to the forest. I'm like, what am I going to talk about trees? 3 months later, over 200 page letters, connection with people from Zambia, Europe, the US, and, Cote d'Ivoire. The book was born, and then the mayor of one region in Zambia reached out to me to tell me he saw the draft of the book that one of our organizations showed him, and he was like, hey, I'm so proud of what you're doing. You need to continue doing this. You need to do more. And I'm like, but the thing is that having this is like on top of the creativity that I get from nature and the connection is so gratifying, because I feel like it's healing me from stuff that I cannot vocalize. But at the same time, it gives me a tool that I can pass on to other people.
So, what is a way that people can access and purchase your books?
My books are available on Amazon under N'nako Kande. So all my books are on Amazon. The Journal Connection are on Amazon. They can follow me on Instagram at N'nako Kande, and on TikTok, I think it's N'nako Kande as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
We thank you so very much for being here with us. You've been a joy. Thank you. So thanks to N'nako for sharing her poem, The Forester's Daughter, and for giving us a deeper understanding behind the meaning and the muse of her poetry and her personal journey and relationship with nature. David Strayer, professor of cognition and neuroscience at the University of Utah, says that the opportunity to balance all that technology with time spent in nature, unplugged from digital devices, has the potential to rest and restore our brains, improve our productivity, reduce our stress levels, and make us feel better. And who among us doesn't want to feel better? So we're going to talk about it with our guest mental health professional, Dr. Valerie Radu. But before we do, I want to take this time to remind you that this podcast is not a replacement for therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified mental health professional with any questions that you have regarding your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Now, with that being said, let's get a better understanding of how getting outdoors, communing with nature, how it impacts our mental health. Valerie Radu, PhD, LCSW, is a full professor in the social work program at National University and has over 30 years of experience as a practitioner, community leader, faculty member, and academic administrator in higher education settings. She is a Level 2 certified ecotherapist and recently completed the requirements for provisional certification as an Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guide. She has advanced training through the School of Lost Borders and the Animas Institute. Her clinical practice focuses on trauma-informed small group work with women, integrating mindfulness and nature-based healing. She is the founder and owner and lead guide for the Thistle and Mud Earth School Incorporated, which houses Sweet Gum Ecotherapy Training, the only ecotherapy certification course in Tennessee. Valerie was born in Uganda, Africa, and lived in Africa until the age of 12. She has been a lover of trees since the age of 6 when she climbed her first tree. The earth has been a constant source of support and healing throughout her life. She is committed to the practice of rewilding. On a sunny October afternoon in 2023, she was gifted her nature name next to a vernal pond in Kentucky. Weaver of new stories for the earth. Join me in welcoming Dr. Valerie Radu. Love that. I love that. Weaver of new stories for the earth. Tell us a little bit. Yeah, tell us about this name.
I know. I was at a wilderness immersion experience through the Animas Institute, and we were in Kentucky, and we were sent off to wander for the afternoon, and I ended up next to this beautiful vernal pond that was like full of decaying leaves and this beautiful tree in the middle. And I laid down next to the pond. It was a really sunny day, and I kind of drifted off, and when I woke up, it was like a voice spoke to me and said, your nature name is Weaver of New Stories for the Earth. I was really overwhelmed because I was like, that is a huge name. So it's taken time for it to land and for it to emerge in my practice, but it kind of did this year. So 2 years later, yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Mm-hmm. That's very exciting. Mm-hmm. You mention in your bio it mentions about ecotherapy certification course. Tell us a bit about how that course works.
So I, in 2018, got my certification through the Earth Body Institute, which is based in the Bay Area, because there was nothing on this part of the U.S., and I kind of stumbled upon that. Somebody I knew who knew that I loved nature so much said, you should reach out to them. They're doing training, all this. So I connected with Ariana, who owns that practice. And interesting fact, she has a connection to National University that I didn't know until last year. So anyway, full circle.
Yes.
Life always comes full circle. Yeah, so I went through her training and then started to develop one that I wanted to offer, which I did last year for the first time. And we had 5 women, 4 mental health professionals and a minister actually go through it and completed. And we did our immersion in Virginia in April of this year. And it was amazing, absolutely powerful. So every ecotherapy certification is a little unique, dependent on the person who creates it and runs it. And mine is embodied practice. So it's about not just doing the practices, but feeling it. I have a lot of content on historical trauma and ancestral trauma. Which is this is a really great opportunity to just pause and recognize that we are on Cherokee land here in Chattanooga. The Cherokee people have stewarded this land for thousands of years, and we owe a lot of gratitude to them, despite the terrible things that happened. They're still here. they're still thriving and flourishing. So ecotherapy really is about bringing all those pieces together. And if you're a clinician, adding your clinical training, but it can just be someone who loves nature and wants to offer, gifts to people in a little more facilitated way.
So what does the nature do for us?
Oh, so many things. Yeah. Yes. And what's exciting is the last decade, the science about what nature does to us has really been amplified. So we actually have now like scientific studies that have documented what nature has done for women surviving breast cancer, formerly incarcerated people, children, people with mental health disorders. So it's broadening how our understanding of time and nature. And for me, what's so interesting is it takes very little time. So roughly 30 minutes outside, especially around trees and pine trees in particular. So pine trees they have a specific kind of chemical that they release into the air that humans can absorb. All trees release it. It's called phytocides. But pine trees are a little more powerful just because of the nature of the way that they're designed. So 30 minutes outside with the tree is really good for anxiety and depression and can last 5 to 7 days. So it's amazing. So it's like natural medicine. Also, holding earth and soil and smelling it, there's chemicals in earth as well, is really good for depression. So I know, it's so interesting. So just spending time with trees, would last a long time. And Yale did a study a couple years ago that found the ideal amount of time every week is 120 minutes. So if you can spend 120 minutes outside, not necessarily doing anything rigorous, just being outside, it has a positive effect on your mental health.
That's amazing. So even as the seasons are changing, and it's getting chilly outside, still spending that time outside, we still get those same benefits.
Yes, and every season brings different gifts. In the nature-based healing world, we call this medicine. Fall brings the medicine of change and transition, letting go. Like a beautiful practice is to sit outside and just watch a leaf fall. How does the leaf know when to fall?
Yeah.
How does it know that it'll be okay as it lands? What does that look like in my life? To let go of something, to know when it's time to let go of something. And then the spring, new things, new birth.
Yeah.
New chance, new opportunity to start over, In the medicine wheel, that's the east, is spring. So east is always about new beginnings. We're moving into the north for winter. When winter's about rest, winter's about hibernation. So as in the fall, a lot of times you'll notice your energy is changing and slowing down. That's a normal rhythm that a lot of us have lost in grind culture, in the hustle culture, in capitalism. We're so stuck on time. Be here, do this, do that, do this, do that.
Keep it going.
But when you let go of that and you get back into those natural rhythms, your energy automatically slows down. And then it starts to come up again in the spring. And then summer is about so much energy. And summer is about being in your body and just being in that beautiful space of being alive in this body that I've been given. So the seasons offer a lot of medicine, a lot of gifts.
So you mentioned specifically about trees, pine trees. Tell us a bit about the sun.
Oh, vitamin D. Yes, we all need sun. I mean, it's part of our human connection to the earth and the moon and the sun and the water and all the elements. But the sun in particular is really good with vitamin D, and it helps our mood stay elevated. There's a diagnosis called SAD, which is a seasonal affective disorder, and that's a real diagnosis in the wintertime or in parts of the world where there's not a lot of light. People can experience that, and it can be depression, but it's seasonal. So it's not like a clinical or a chronic condition. It's connected to the seasons.
Right.
We need the sun to grow, just like plants need the sun. Humans need them too.
So if we're finding ourselves feeling that way, feeling sad, the seasonal disorder, what can we do to bring ourselves out of that?
Go outside. Hopefully there's some sun in the winter. Sit under light. You can buy light that you can use in your home that can create more light, ultraviolet light. But yeah, it's definitely a real thing for people. I've worked with clients in my private practice who have had SAD.
So I've heard some terms that I would love for you to define for us. In our previous conversation with our poet N'nako, she mentioned grounding. What is that?
Oh, grounding is one of the gifts and medicine that is available to us in your front yard. So NASA has actually measured the electricity that comes out of the earth. There's some interesting papers written about that. And if you take your shoes off, it's a practice called earthing, and you walk barefoot on the grass or just the ground, you're absorbing some of the electricity that's coming out of the earth. Yeah. And it's a real thing. So it's grounding. It grounds us. We are nature, which is why all of these practices resonate so deeply with us, because we are nature. So just going outside and putting your feet on the earth, it's a real thing.
Barefoot.
You need to be barefoot. Yes. If you lay down, it's even better.
Okay. Okay. And I also have heard forest bathing.
Yeah.
What is that?
Forest bathing is, if you go outside and sit with a tree, you're forest bathing.
Okay.
And I think the poet alluded to that in that beautiful poem about just being outside with the water and the other beings that live in the forest and the trees and all that. That's forest bathing. So it's immersing ourselves into this natural environment, slowing down, breathing, and just being present in this moment right now with all these other beings that are around us. I went through a training to be certified as a guide, but there's many people that just go out and do it. You don't have to be certified. Certification in my case allows me to lead a group. Like I led a large group last weekend of veterans through a 3-hour experience connected to being grounded after trauma. So there's a lot of ways to work with nature when it comes to that.
So there's a lot happening in our culture, in our communities when it comes to nature. We're losing a lot with advancements and all this building and infrastructure and all of that. What are some things that maybe community leaders in general might need to kind of bear in mind when it comes to things of that nature?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, a term that comes to mind is eco-grief, which a lot of us are feeling right now. Those of us that are very connected to the earth, feeling deep, deep grief and sadness about what's happening. But also at the same time, knowing that we still have to persevere and we've got to find a way. So there's definitely research that supports that humans need green spaces and blue spaces. Really, really important. And it can be very small. It can be a pocket park, the size of a front yard, for example. But there's something about the colors that are there, the plants, the chemicals that come from the earth. So we need to preserve green and blue spaces. And that should be a community collaboration. It should be a conversation. And I think a lot of times, people who want to build new things don't think about that. They just see it as, oh, let me just put up a whole bunch of apartments. And then let's cut down all the trees and plant new ones. Why are we doing that?
Right.
Those older trees are elders and they carry the wisdom and the medicine that we need as humans. So we've got to work on having more conversations about the benefits of green and blue spaces.
Right. And Chattanooga does do a pretty good job.
They do in some ways.
Of that. You're right. But I'll tell you, I think about things of that nature. There's times in my neighborhood, I will see foxes.
Yeah.
I've seen coyotes.
Absolutely. Me too.
And my first thought is, oh, that's kind of scary. And then immediately following that, I'm like, but we've taken up their homes.
Yeah, they have to adjust. And they do. That's what's amazing about nature is I see coyotes too in my neighborhood. Coyotes are one of the most resilient species to adjust to urban living. So they can live in places that have very little green space and they somehow figure out how to thrive. There's a bear that lives on Highway 58.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's lived there like 30 years. Yes, over in the subdivision there, people know him. Like he walks down to 58 over to the Crystal. No, for real. So the thing is, like, nature will always be with us, but we do need to think more thoughtfully about, of course you can build things,
right?
But how can we do that in a way that's responsible and caring about the collective good,
Exactly.
not just let's build something and charge people overpriced rent.
There is a there is a balance.
Yeah.
There is a balance. So tell me a bit more. You had mentioned historical trauma. How does that relate to nature and to mental health?
Absolutely. In very deep ways, very, very deep ways. So historical trauma, and as I mentioned earlier, we're on Cherokee land here. So historical trauma means, A, you need to know the land you're on. Really important. And we need to know who stewarded that land, who cared for this place before us. But historical trauma means that, you know, people have been displaced, terrible things have happened to people outdoors. As we know, people who were enslaved often had to run outside to try to escape, and then terrible things happen there. So, you know, we have to really unpack those narratives about, is it safe to be outside in nature when maybe my ancestors died there?
Yeah.
They were harmed there.
Yeah.
So how do we reclaim those spaces for healing when so much trauma has happened there? And we have to talk about it. And we have to do healing ceremonies in those spaces so that they are healed, because the land was harmed too. It wasn't just the people that were there.
And is it even possible to carry that type of trauma in your bones, in your blood, and you're not even
100%.
aware
Yes.
of what
Yes,
happened
absolutely.
to your ancestors?
Yes.
Because we all kind of carry.
We do. Yeah, of course. And it may be that you have a response and you're like, where did that come from? Right. And that's ancestral and historical trauma, and generational trauma. Yes. And it's real. It's real. It's real for so many people. And, you know, I think creating healing spaces where people can go and just be with that and feel it, which is really painful. But at the same time, to honor that. And to thank your body and your ancestors for taking care of you and for protecting you. So there's a lot of work we need to do in that space. There's a really wonderful organization called Outdoor Afro that was started in California about 10 years ago. And she's a woman of color, and she didn't see people of color outside. She would look at the National Park website. She's like, these are only white people. What's going on? So she started by reaching out to the National Park Service, and she actually worked with them to diversify who they were showing who was outside. So as the organization developed, they do a lot of work around historical trauma and ancestral trauma, and just taking groups of people outside to just be with nature and to find healing in places that they may have felt unsafe in the past. I think the poet's connection to the land is interesting because there is trauma in her story, both in her personal story, her family story, her lineage, but the land too. I mean, Africa was colonized, just like America. I mean, we all live on colonized land, right? So I think the poet's story is interesting, is that she has rewritten the narrative. She has reclaimed that story that was taken from her ancestors and from the land, not just that. So it's like a mix of things, which is really beautiful. And that's an example of a healing practice, a ceremony almost, that you could do to heal the land trauma, your ancestral trauma, your community trauma.
What's an exercise that we can do when we are outside?
You can go and spend time with a tree. Yes. So you go somewhere, you find a tree. You may want to stand, in an open area and just breathe a couple of nice breaths, open your eyes. Oh, there's a tree. It looks really interesting. Let me go over there. So you sit with the tree, you get to know the tree, you introduce yourself to the tree, you tell a little bit about who you are.
You talk to the tree.
You talk to the tree. You look at the bark, you look at the leaves, you look at what's around the tree, what lives in the tree, and you literally sit and spend time with the tree and get to know the tree. And that can be also a sit spot practice where you go back consistently over a year. And then you tell, and in the whole course of the year, you're telling stories to the tree. And some people tell the tree things they can't tell other people because the tree can hold it. The tree has deep roots. She's open. Oh, it's a beautiful practice. And the deeper you do it, the longer you do it, it's really, really powerful.
And it gives you a greater appreciation for the trees.
Yes.
When you realize that it's a whole ecosystem that's a part of.
It's a community.
It is. It is. But I will tell you, I needed a break. I felt myself breaking. And about a month ago, I took like a week and I unplugged from everything.
Oh, good for
I let
you,
the people close to me
Marsha.
know
No, yeah.
I'm not talking
Right.
on the phone. I'm
Good for
not
you.
answering text
Ooh,
messages.
your
I'm not
nervous
on
system
social
love
media.
that.
Oh, it was so amazing.
Yeah, that's very healing.
One of the things that happened that really, really opened my eyes was that at first it was really uncomfortable for me to sit in silence.
Yeah.
For me to just sit
Mm-hmm.
and not be writing,
Yep.
not be doing, not
Yep.
on the
Just
computer,
being.
not right.
Yeah, it's
And I
hard.
sat out on my back porch. I did spend time out,
Mm-hmm.
but it was mostly like every morning I went out on my back porch.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did like some deep breathing. And it took a little bit for me to,
Yeah.
because at first I found myself making mental to-do lists in my head.
That's how our brains,
and I felt like I was like, I need to be doing something. I'm not productive. And it's like, this is doing something.
Right.
And just being intentional with that. And there was some healing
Absolutely.
that I experienced
Of course.
and felt, because I realized just how very overwhelmed I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody is.
Yes,
You're
with
not.
just being inundated with
Capitalism.
Oh man. It's
Capitalism doesn't care
crazy.
about your brain. They want you to do outputs.
Yes.
No, it's just so toxic. When the veil falls and you see it, you're like, oh my God, this is why people die of heart attacks at 40. And that's why that woman, the NAP ministry, Trisha Hershey, she was in finance, like working this high profile corporate job. And she realized, she's like, I'm going to die. I'm going to be dead at 50 if I don't change something.
Right.
We're not designed that way.
We're not. So what are some things that you can just some wisdom that you can share with us to help improve our quality of life, possibly our quantity of years, when it relates to the free resource that God has provided that's right outside our door.
Your door? Yeah.
So what are some nuggets of wisdom that you can share with us?
I mean, I think spending a few minutes outside every day, just sitting on your back porch, noticing. A lot of the practice of forest bathing and ecotherapy is learning how to notice. When we live in grind culture and capitalism, we don't have time to notice. We don't have time to breathe. We don't have time to notice, how does my body feel right now? What's really going on?
Just being present.
Yes. So gifting yourself 15, 20 minutes every day. What a gift. Helps your mind, it calms your nervous system down, and it helps you learn to see the difference between, this is me having to survive and work the job and do all the 500 things. This is me alive.
Oh, yeah.
And being.
Yes.
Truly human.
Yes.
Becoming whole.
Yes. So is writing a part of your practice as well?
It is.
How do you incorporate that?
I mean, I write poetry. I also do nature journaling. Nature journaling is a whole practice that you can Google it. There's tons of free resources online for that. It's really about noticing. You could start a nature journal by, every time you sit outside on your back porch, on your front porch, the date, the time, the temperature, the moon phase.
Yeah.
Start with that. And it's amazing how your brain starts reorienting itself, because that's our natural rhythm. Not, oh, it's 7:30. I got to be somewhere at 8:15. I haven't eaten breakfast. I don't know what day is it. Yeah. So nature journaling is really noticing. And it's nice for people who are visual learners. It's good to write. Yeah. So you can just start with collecting a little data every time you're sitting on your back porch. And then over time, you see the seasons change, the moon phases change, and it's beautiful.
And maybe even incorporating into that how you feel in that moment.
Yes, you could write, today I feel. I like to use the prompt, I am the one who. That's a very powerful prompt that I use a lot in my therapy work with women. And it's a very evocative prompt, right?
Yes.
Like if I was to ask you today, I am the one who.
Oh.
Don't overthink it.
I'm the one who survived the day.
Yes. I am the one who is here in gratitude.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a lovely, and when you say it, I am the one who, just breathe it and see what comes out.
See what comes out. I love that. I love that.
That's good.
So if people are wanting to contact you, how do they do that?
They can find me on Instagram under, the school's name is Thistle and Mud Earth School. But my other account that I also post a lot of nature stuff on is Wandering Wise Woman. Okay. So they can look for me under that as well.
Okay. Thank you so very much for being here with us.
I enjoyed it very much.
You've been amazing. Anne Frank, a German-born Jewish teenager born in 1929, became a symbol of the millions of Jews and others who were persecuted and murdered by Nazis. She is quoted as saying, "The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quiet, alone with the heavens, nature, and God. Because only then does one feel that all is as it should be and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature. I firmly believe that nature brings solace in all troubles." And we would like to hear from you. How does being outdoors impact your mood and your mental health? Tell us in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast, and submit your poem to rncpoetry@gmail.com for the chance to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Until next time, this is the Poetic Diva. Take some time to unplug and enjoy the outdoors as your days are filled with inspiration, healing, and poetry, one rhyme at a time. One Rhyme at a Time, unpacking the meaning and the muse with the Poetic Diva, is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between artistic expression and mental wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization and the financial and technical support of the Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, Gold Look Productions, and our Chattanooga local NPR station, WUTC 88.1. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and leave comments for us on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us as we continue to bring you meaningful content, one rhyme at a time.